How's it going, guys? It's Al. It's NFL Week 1. We finally made it. We've been putting out videos for the last month and a half in preparation for the NFL season to start, but it's finally here. For those of you who've been watching those videos, thank you very much. If you're new to the YouTube channel, do me a favor, click like on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell so that you can know every time that I post new NFL, fantasy football, daily fantasy sports type videos right here on this channel. Leave me a comment in the section down below and let me know how we're doing. I'm going to do a first look lineup. For those of you who are not viewers last year, the way that we do the first look is going to be pretty much similar every single week. I'm not going to know what the salaries are. I'm not going to know who to play. I build lineups based on a certain lineup building strategy. Now, week 1 this year, obviously I've put out a ton of content already. My article is going up on ESPN today. It is Monday, September the 3rd. This lineup is something that probably is going to change by the time lineups lock on Sunday for week 1. But this is also going to be a different first look lineup than my usual ones because I've spent a month grinding over these salaries, but I'm going to stick to my lineup building tools and rules that I always seem to use to do these first looks lineups. And that's what we're going to do this week. So starting at quarterback, as you guys know, I like to spend down at quarterback in cash. So we're going to try and find a quarterback who's less than 6K. I think Tom Brady's a great play this week. I love Cam Newton for GPPs. Drew Brees, I think he's going to have a bounce back season this year. Tampa Bay, kind of a soft defense and a good landing spot for him at home in week 1. Deshaun Watson against New England should be chasing. Playing from behind in this game, should have to throw a little bit more than usual. Always a threat with his legs. Ben Roethlisberger on the road, probably not somebody I'm targeting. Kirk Cousins against San Francisco against San Francisco in Minnesota on his new team. Bunch of great targets in Diggs and Rudolph and Thielen. Is he going to be your cash game play? I love Rivers this week. I think he's in play as well against Kansas City, who should not be able to defend their way out of a paper bag. Not sure I really want in on Mariota. Russ Wilson, no targets for him to really throw to with Baldwin at 85% against Denver. In Denver, not the same Denver defense that they used to be, but we're going to look a little bit lower on the salary list. So Andy Dalton, very palatable for me at 5,800 against Indianapolis, who is starting an entire defensive backfield, essentially, that a lot of other teams would cut if you listen to Mike Clay. One of the worst units in the league, or the worst unit in the league in terms of cornerbacks. They gave up a ton of yards, a ton of air yards last year, a ton of high amount of efficiency on deep balls. We know that Cincinnati has John Ross playing with this team this year, running with the ones. He's going to play a ton of snaps this year. He got loose against Indy in the preseason in the last week. Dropped the ball around the goal line and had a long touchdown the week before. I think that he's going to give them fits. I think AJ Green is going to possibly get loose, one of the better wide receivers for week 1. Andy Dalton definitely in play and might be the guy that I end up with in this lineup. Alex Smith, no. Bortles, there's a few guys that I want to play for Jacksonville, but just because there's guys that I like on Jacksonville's offense doesn't mean that I really want to add the quarterback to that, because those players are so cheap that they could pay off their salary without Bortles having to go ham to do so, right? Bortles could end the day with 190 or 210 passing yards and 1, maybe 2 touchdowns through the air, and that's not going to really be enough to smash that 5,600 salary. I don't know that he has the upside for me at 5,600. I want somebody who's got an opportunity at possibly getting a 25, maybe as high as a 27-point day if I'm going to go down here to this range. We only need 16 points, 17 points to be happy, but I want the ability for that quarterback to get me up to about 25. So to me, it comes to Dalton, who sneakily has one of the more high rush touchdown totals over the past 3 or 4 seasons. But the one that I want to go with is Tyrod Taylor playing at home in a new offense. I'm a big believer in Ty God. He was on my first look lineup, my way too early first look lineup, and he's still going to be in this week 1 first look lineup as well at 5,400. Kind of a toss up to me between Taylor and Andy Dalton. I'm going to stick with Taylor in this one. I don't know that we need to stack him with anybody. He does have Gordon back at practice right here on Monday as being reported by the beat writers for the Browns. So I could easily have gone with Dalton here. I'm going to go with Tyrod. That's the place that I want to go. Now, looking at the high dollar running backs, Le'Veon Bell, still not in camp, still not at practice, hasn't signed his contract. Le'Veon Bell last year against Cleveland, same week 1. Look what he did last year, coming off of a holdout. 10 carries, had 6 targets, 3 catches, 7.7 points. They are visibly and outwardly upset with Le'Veon Bell, and I'm not sure that he is somebody that I want to hang my hat on in week 1. So he's off the board for me right now in terms of cash. That might open up his backup, James Conner, out of Pitt. We know that it doesn't matter who in this Pittsburgh system is going to be the backup running back, right? It does not matter. We've seen it with D'Angelo. We're going to see it with Conner. This is a very friendly scheme for running backs. Now, if Le'Veon Bell is inactive in week 1, and that's still up in the air, we don't know if that's the case, James Conner becomes somewhat of a core play for me against Cleveland, even though it's on the road. He's going to be somebody I'm going to want to have in tournaments. There's a lot of value. I don't know that we need to have him. I like him less than somebody like Rex Burkhead, but he's somebody that needs to be on your radar, at least where we stand right now with this Le'Veon Bell news that just came out. David Johnson, I like David Johnson in week 1. I don't know that I want to play him over Alvin Kamara at the high end. Teflon Spartan, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate you, man. Alvin Kamara, to me, is going to be a plug and play with Ingram out, with them cutting Jonathan Williams, with them cutting the other backup West on that team, Boston Scott being a very small, slight running back. Kamara did not get a lot of usage last year. He was ridiculously efficient with any touch that he got. But you look at his game-by-game usage. Week 19, this is a playoff game. 7 targets, 11 carries. 10 carries, 3 targets. 9 carries, 7 targets. 12 carries, 9 targets. He didn't really get 15 to 18 or 20 rush attempts. He never really got 20 touches in a game. Against the Buccaneers, 2 times he had 15.5 touches per game. So this isn't a guy who had been a workhorse last year. So that is something that's kind of stuck in my mind. Are they going to keep him to 15 to 18 total touches? Or is he going to be a 20 to 25 touch guy the first 4 weeks? I believe that they're going to bump him up to 20 to 25 touches for the first 4 weeks of the season. He's got some really great matchups, including this week against Tampa Bay at home, heavily favored. I want Kamara in my lineups. I know that he's going to be highly owned in cash. I know he's going to be highly owned in tournaments, but he's still that guy that I want to anchor my lineups with. If you want to pivot off to David Johnson, Leonard Fournette, or Ezekiel Elliott, go ahead. I'm sticking with Alvin Kamara. Looking for a value running back to pair him with. There's a lot of guys here in the mid-range. Okay, Christian McCaffrey at 6,400, I like a lot. Melvin Gordon at home against Kansas City. I spoke about how much Kansas City is a defense that's living on reputation right now, a lot on the stream so far this month. Nothing has changed. This is a defense that lost a lot of bodies. Melvin Gordon has had a couple of big games against them in the past. We also saw Kareem Hunt have good games against this team twice last season, so it's going to be interesting to see how many people actually roster him. 13.9 in their first game. Their second game, 28.9 points against. You know the volume's going to be there with Melvin Gordon. You only have to pay $6,800. This is a guy who should get 25 touches in a game against a really bad defense, so I do like him as well. Dalvin Cook, if you think that he's going to get the work, he did get worked in at the second half of preseason games 3. We saw him work back into practice where he wasn't running a lot at the beginning of the season, coming off of that leg injury from last year. He's had enough time. San Francisco has been an absolute festival for us on defense for the last few years. We just have been streaming running backs against them. I don't think anything has changed for this San Francisco defense other than the fact that their offense is a little bit better. Might be able to sustain some drives a little bit better to keep the defense off the field, but efficiency-wise, that defense is still going to get gashed by running backs. If you believe that Dalvin Cook's going to get a lot of carries, you can go with him. I also like Alex Collins in this range. We talked about how they should be playing from ahead at home. Running backs at home who are 7-point favorites.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Bets Poker with the 100 bits. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the support of the channel. So you could go with Alex Collins. A lot of research showing that running backs that play at home that are 7-point favorites, you know he's going to get the goal line work. 5,600. You could pair him with their defense as well. Drake going to get a lot of touches. Also, Joe Mixon against Indianapolis, though be it on the road. Devo Brain J, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate you, brother. So we've got a whole lot of guys in that 5,500 to 7,000 range that I want to go with, but the obvious value play has been the obvious value play for a month, and it's all the way down here at 4,200. It's Rex Burkhead. Okay, so Taylor, Kamara, Burkhead to start it off. Moving on to wide receivers. I was going to say that Antonio Brown is a good leverage play if Le'Veon Bell was going to be there, but I think he's an even better leverage play if James Conner is in play, because everybody's going to play him and most aren't going to play 2. So if everybody's going to be on Connor, I want as much Antonio Brown as I can get in my tournaments. Not like 80% or anything, but like I want to outpace the field because I don't think he's going to be exceptionally highly owned because of all the players that are below him. Keenan Allen, big time talent, big time usage. Last year, great red zone looks. They just brought back Antonio Gates because of Hunter Henry loss for the season. Expect, I don't know, around or over 10 targets against a Kansas City defense that is ill-equipped to stop him. A lot of people want me to go with Terrell Williams here for the brand. I'm going to have Terrell Williams in tournaments, but in terms of a cash game play, I think Keenan Allen is the guy. Looking at the mid-range, I want as many targets as I can get. I want to stack up as many targets as I can get pretty much every week. Emmanuel Sanders at 5K. Running most of his routes out of the slot. They're going with the rookie on the outside and DT on the outside. Their quarterback last year peppered the slot. Case Keenum, the new quarterback there in Denver. So they shouldn't have the QB problems that they had before. I'm expecting a lot of targets out of Emmanuel Sanders this year, and he's really low priced at 5K, so I like him as well. Let's plug him in. The player that I think is mispriced the most.
Does anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
That's Poker with another 100 bits, taking over the number one bit spot on the channel, right there at the top of the chat with 200 bits so far on the stream. Thank you for the support, man. Is Keelan Cole. Jacksonville lost Marquise Lee. Jacksonville got rid of Allen Robinson. He didn't have any targets last year because of that ACL injury. Marquise Lee was going to be the lead guy. Keelan Cole came on at the end of last season when everybody else was injured, but then during the preseason was playing even more snaps than he played in the second half of last year when he was playing 65 to 70% of snaps. He was playing 80 to 85, possibly 90% of snaps when Blake Bortles was on the field, and then Marquise Lee was out. His target percentage should jump from like 12 or 15% last year to something like 18 to 22% this year. He's not going to be a massive red zone target, and we can talk a little bit more later on some other shows as the week goes on about how much Blake Bortles targets different players in the red zone. Two of the highest 4 players that Blake Bortles targeted last year. 2 of them were tight ends, and 3 of them are not on the team anymore. C. Maximus with 300 bits. You guys are going nuts. I love you guys. Taking over the number one bit spot, C. Maximus 24. So Keelan Cole at 3,800 opens up a lot of room for us. Now, we've got a tight end, a flex, and a defense. At defense, we do the same thing on this first look lineup all the time. One, we just grab a 3K defense. It's not going to be Buffalo. Let's just go with the who's at home, who's whatever, Panthers, fine. I just blindly grab a home defense around 3,000. Okay, we don't spend a lot of time on defense on the first look lineup, so we're just grabbing somebody in there to see kind of how things look. Now, at tight end, Rob Gronkowski could end up as one of the top 3 or 5 pass catchers on the year, including wide receivers. But I think that he's a tournament play in week 1. You can afford him in cash, as you can see here. We have 6,200 remaining. If we go with him, we'll need somebody in the 5,500 range. You could get there if you choose to this year. I think it's a big risk considering how they've priced these other dudes, right? Jordan Reed at 4K. If you're not going to play Jordan Reed when he's healthy, when are you going to play him? And he's underpriced at 4K considering how many double-digit target games he's had the last few years when healthy. Jack Doyle, 3,600. People were scared of Ebron coming into this year because the Colts picked him up. Andrew Luck is back, and Doyle played most of the snaps and got most of the targets at tight end when Luck was on the field during the preseason. David Njoku, somebody I love this year, but I don't like in week 1 because Pittsburgh defense does tend to stifle tight end usage, but with Tyrod Taylor being the quarterback, forcing the ball to tight ends as much as he does, we saw him turn Charles Clay into an actual thing, right, over the last few years. And Njoku going from about 45% of snaps to playing expected 80 to 90% of snaps this year. On volume alone and being on the field alone, he might actually be able to pay off this salary at 3,400. So I like him as a tournament play this week. Austin Seferian-Jenkins at 3,200. Against the Giants. This is a flow chart play. That's what I'm going to go with. That gives us 9,200 if we go cheap at tight end, right? 9,200 is straight up too much, but you would think. But as you guys know, I'm always about Team Jam 'em in. And Arizona at home with David Johnson coming back from a wrist injury. Most people that I've talked to are like, oh, he's coming back from injury. Do you think he's going to be able to run really well this year? He injured his wrist last year, guys. He didn't injure his leg. This wasn't an Achilles. This wasn't a foot. This wasn't a broken leg. This wasn't an ACL. He didn't tear an MCL. It wasn't reconstruction surgery. He had a wrist injury that occurred in week 1. He could have come back late in the year, but they decided not to for the simple fact that they wanted to make him healthy for this year because they knew they weren't winning anything. Now, we might have too much Jacksonville here. We can pivot off Keelan Cole. We can go to a different wide receiver. Amendola should get a ton of targets against the Tennessee team that should not be able to stop him. We have Kamara. I want to bring it back with somebody. Godwin's going to play a ton of snaps. So Godwin's going to fill out my lineup here. I know that Keelan Cole is going to be the chalk play. You could look at this as a league's lineup. I still think this is a very solid lineup. New Orleans has very, very good cornerbacks, but volume alone should allow Godwin to run a lot of snaps, get a lot of targets, and pay off that $4,100 salary with touchdown upside, as he is a bigger body and should see more red zone usage than should Keelan Cole. So that's my first look lineup. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you watching the video as long as you have, if you're still here. I mean, these little pop-ups right over here should help you. You've got a subscribe button up there. Got another suggested video for you down here. Click one of those. Click like, subscribe, ring that bell, and I'll be back with you next time, guys. Thanks for being here. Bye.